Hello, so this channel is called Being Enneagram 6, but I want to talk in this video about Enneagram 4. So I don't pretend to know exactly how the Enneagram types develop and the specific sort of psychological mechanisms that lead to us having a specific Enneagram expression, Enneagram type, right? But it seems that with Enneagram 4, there is an inherent um, tendency to feel that you are separate from like mainstream society, right? Or that you are somehow flawed in a way that will never be able to fit into um, like what is considered the normal society or something like that. And there's different factors that come into play. So I very much like using trifix, I think, or whatever you want to call that, because I think we do have three sort of types. We pull from each center, so the head center, the heart center, the gut center. We have a type in each, right? We have a main type in each, and there's also the instincts that come to play. But I think with Enneagram 4, and I'm speaking as someone who's a 6 with 4 in the trifix, so I have a 4 fix. I think with Enneagram 4, it is this thing of if we're talking about fours being standoffish or being seen as standoffish, where does that come from, or what does that mean? So I think it has a lot to do with the four feeling that they are different and maybe uniquely flawed or uniquely special in some way, right? And so there's this, I don't know where it comes from exactly, but there's this psychological, there's a shine in my glasses, sorry, but there's an inherent psychological tendency to feel that way. And I don't know exactly where that comes from. I've read different things, but there's different theories around how the types develop and all that. But I think if you're 4 or if you have a 4 fix, there is a part of you, at least, that has this kind of air of like this mystery, or this kind of like on some level you feel that you don't belong and you don't wish to partake in a society that you don't understand, or that repulses you in some way, right? And so an expression of that can be this kind of what people would call standoffish or aloof, or this kind of energy that is really to do with the fact that you feel like your your sense of self is not aligned with the way that society is, or you have like a fixation about that. So you feel that you're not aligned with society in some way. Even if you're not a core 4, there's still a part of you that is like that. And if you have other things going on, like I'm a 6-9-4, so I have 6 and 9, which are attachment types. So I'm a little bit more in like it kind of changes the tendency of the 4 a little bit, in the sense that 6 and 9 are more, they're attachment types. 6 can be very relational. I'm also social instinct first. So that can make you want to connect more, or makes you be friendlier, or makes you like certain things in your trifix or your instinct stacking. Like if you're social first, it can make you more able maybe to feel that oneness with other people or with society. But the 4 part of you would be the part that is just feels like you are somehow separate, right? And it creates this kind of aloofness and the standoffishness. And I think with 4-wing 3 and 4-wing 5, it can be a different way. So I have 4-wing 3 specifically in my trifix, And when I kind of realized that, or when I found that out, it kind of made sense to me. Some of the, even like the micro expressions that people make, like some of the micro expressions that I would make would be coming from my four side, my four wing three. So sometimes it is this kind of aloof quality that you feel that you're somehow not fitting, and you're not intending to fit, because you can already tell that you're not going to fit in some way, or you have that feeling inside, even though it may not actually reflect everything about the reality that you're in, but you feel like that because that is your psychological tendency, your mechanism, is one of your psychological mechanisms and tendencies, right? So it's not necessarily that fours want to be different, or want to feel different. Well, certainly it's not that they want to, consciously be different in every way, but it's feeling like you already are. So then your behavior will reflect that, right? Your micro expressions and everything is going to reflect that, because that's your beliefs will guide how you behave and how you present yourself. So if you already feel that way, then that's going to come across in a way that might make people think that that you want to be, let's say, different. But really it's more that you're coming into the situation already feeling that you are. So then that's going to color everything else. And so with 4 3, it's more like it can be this kind of more graceful way of expressing it, maybe. Because the 4 5 can be more sort of grungy and like very obviously not going, it's like almost like a 4 5 is very obviously not going to participate in something that they don't want to, that they don't accept on like a intellectual level, let's say. But 4 3 is more, it has a 3, so it's maybe more interested in it has that 3 part, so it's maybe more interested in actually being more polished in a way. So the 4 3 can have these kinds of like, this kind of slightly like standoffish and aloof like facial expressions or body language, where the 4 5 is going to be more sort of withdrawn in a way, because that 5 wing is the one that is like darker than the 3, let's say. So the 3 is more, a little bit more connected to, especially if you have a social instinct as well, like it's more connected to like that wanting to connect, right, with people. But then the 5, if you have a 5 wing, it's more like you're just it's more grungy and it's kind of darker. So 4 3 is not necessarily, it's still going to be 4 that you have, but it's not going to be that grungy dark like 4 5 part. It's more like this kind of like, I'm not going to participate, but I'm still going to make people think I'm interesting, or something like that. So it can be this kind of, this kinds of aloof expressions. 4 5 is going to be like, I'm not going to participate, like more like this kind of withdrawn expression. 4 3 is going to be more like, I don't want to participate, but I still want you to see me for like this special, unique like qualities that I have, let's say. And like I say, it depends on also your instinct. So if you have a social instinct first, you're going to be more like instinctually and viscerally connected to wanting to connect with people. So I have a social instinct first. So I'm like more like preoccupied with how I'm being perceived, or like how I'm getting along with people. If you have that as your blind spot, then you'd be more kind of just blind to that. You're not going to be able to, it almost doesn't register sometimes that how you're coming across, let's say. But if you have a social instinct first, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're more social in general, but you're going to be more like, you're going to be picking up the the cues, and you're going to be interested in like understanding like how am I being perceived, or did I do something right, did I do something wrong, or what's the right way to behave. So if you connect that with a 4 and with 3 wing, like I would have, for example, so I have a social instinct, and I have a 4 wing 3 in my trifix. So I would be more interested in like the presentation in a way, or at least preoccupied with thinking about how the presentation was, even if the presentation is still a little bit broken or like fragmented in like a 4-ish way. So even if I know that I'm not presenting in a very like fully 3-ish way, I'm not presenting in like this very polished way, I'm still gonna like, it's more of a 4-ish sort of slightly imperfect quote unquote way. But because of the 3 wing, I'm still gonna be a little bit more of that like polished and like more interested in how it comes across in a way that is more like clean or polished, whereas 4 wing 5 is going to be more just more grungy, and like it's like the darker side of the 4, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm going on a tangent, but yeah. So I think with the 4, like if you have 4 in the trifix, or if you have if you are a core 4, you can kind of go into situations feeling like you're already not going to fit with this crowd or these people, or like you're not going to align with them. So then that creates this kind of, I don't know where it comes from exactly. I'm still learning these things as well. We're always learning about things, but you're already going into situations feeling that you're like somehow different or odd in some way. So then you're gonna have expressions that are, if you really look at it, they're connected to that. So this kind of uppity, aloofness, like, I don't want to interact with these people directly, but I still want them to like notice me and think I'm interesting or something. That can be like a 4-ish thing, especially like the 4 wing 3, which I have more personal experience with, just because I have it myself. And 4 wing 5 would just be more, maybe more intellectually rejecting society. So like 4 wing 3 might find like some things really repulsive that are like more aesthetic, let's say, or that, things that are in bad taste. And 4 wing 5 might think that certain concepts are bad taste, right? Or a certain way that people are seeing the world or talking about subjects, that's in bad taste, because the 5 is more intellectual. The 5 is like the one that is like observing the world and like reality. So the 5 wing then would be more about kind of being repulsed by how people are, wired intellectually or how they're talking, whereas 4 wing 3 is a little bit more the slightly more aesthetic in a sense, although 4 wing 5 can also have the aesthetic focus. It's just a different kind of aesthetic, right? It's the darker aesthetic, and very much removed and withdrawn and like, in the depths. And 4 is always going to be like concerned with the depths, but I think with a 3 wing it's going to be more still interested in, it's like it can't separate the depths and the darkness from like still being polished and still being approachable in some way, or maybe not approachable, but it wants to be noticed for like its qualities, which I think 4 wing 5 wants to as well. But 4 wing 5 I think doesn't care as much as the 4 wing 3 about like being polished or being, in some way acceptable in a way, if that makes sense. So this is just kind of like one aspect of the 4 that I wanted to discuss specifically. Like the 4 patterns are such that, I've said it all that I wanted to say really, but it's kind of like, it is this thing of like feeling that you're somehow not going to connect because you already are like flawed in some way or different in some way, and so you're going to like create this kind of, on some level you're going to create this kind of character or this air of like aloofness and this kind of thing that people might call standoffish, because you're internally feeling like you're somehow not going to connect with this crowd, let's say. So you're gonna like walk in being slightly standoffish. And I think I'm not a core for ring 3, so even if you are not a core 4, like you're still gonna have that to some degree, because it's part of your wiring, your emotional wiring. Like you still have it in your trifix, so you're still going to have that if you really observe, and it's all about observation really, and it's a lifelong journey of discovery. So if you want more from me, do subscribe and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts about this. So thanks.